Colin was wrong.
I think I've probably been too high on the Green Bay Packers. They got beat by the Lions twice, the Vikings twice, and the Eagles. I like this roster a lot. I like the coach, but they can't beat the good teams. And I had them above Minnesota and Detroit in the herd hierarchy. When they're really good, like the fourth quarter when they came roaring back, they are so talented and so much fun to watch. But they're 0-5 against the top teams in the NFC, so they're probably a year away. I kind of fell for them, but I still like their future.
All right. So I don't think you have to feel like you're too high on the Green Bay Packers and Jordan Love, but this game was frustrating and disappointing if you're a Packers fan. And I actually blame Matt LaFleur. And I think Matt LaFleur is a top coach. I really do. I think he's a top coach in the NFL. But it was both bad luck, their own doing, and Matt LaFleur. Matt LaFleur, I think, called like a desperate game, even though they shouldn't be desperate. The Packers played like they were one of those teams that has like 3 wins, and they got like nothing else to lose, and it's like, who cares, whatever. We're just playing, whatever, man. We're just like gonna let it sling, and it's like what are you doing? And that's why it was actually kind of great that Tom Brady was there, because Tom Brady's also like, dude, kick a field goal. Like what are you doing? That field goal changes everything. Having like 60 yards passing with like 8 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, like how is that even remotely possible? I really don't know. And it's because it's like all of these throws, there's in that first half, it felt like majority of the throws were all these low percentage throws. And I don't understand why. I really don't. And it just doesn't make sense. And then, like, at one point when they even went for 2, like, I'm sure you can make the math work, but also kind of like, why? Like, there's just so many things that I didn't understand. And then the one penalty on the field goal attempt, like, which then, instead of the missed field goal, they then got 5-yard penalty and then got to kick the field goal again. And then now they got the field goal for the Minnesota Vikings. Like, those things are indefensible. Those are not the things. You can't have this first half where you fumble the ball. You go for it on 4th down, don't get it. So now you don't get points. You have the Vikings miss a field goal, but because of your penalty, you now give them another chance. They then make the field goal. I mean, like, that's what the score was here. I mean, they just did not play. The Packers did not play like they really had something to gain there. They did not play like they were like, hey, we're top contenders. Now, I believe that the Packers are a top contender. But against the Vikings, it looked like the Vikings were a legitimate step above them. I'm not saying that that's necessarily the reality of these two teams, but you could see the Vikings game plan. You could see the plan of attack. You could see the tackling, the intensity that they brought. And by comparison, you could see the lack of that from the Packers. And so it was not a good outing, and it's not the type of game that you want in this game. I mean, again, you're having Sam Darnold light up the box score, set the stat sheet on fire. And you got Jordan Love having like 65 yards, 8 minutes to go in the fourth. And they closed the gap, but like, again, that was not a 27-25 game, and we know it. We know it. So I'm just, Love was 19 for 30, 185 yards, and there's 24 carries, 104 yards. You need to get more out of that. And I know they weren't fully healthy. I get that. I understand that. And that's always a thing. But that still doesn't explain the readiness. There's no way you watch that game if you're a Packers fan. You could be the biggest Packers fan ever. There's no way you watch that first half and feel like the Packers were ready. There's no way. And again, there was like a desperation. You could even see the emotionalness of LaFleur on the sidelines. Like this felt like a coach. This is what this felt like. This felt again, at least the first half or the first 3 quarters even. This game felt like this was a coach who was coaching for it to not be fired, and this team is failing. They're like a 3-4 win team, and they either have a really bad quarterback, like a Daniel Jones or something, or a quarterback who's like hanging on by a thread as well. I mean, it felt like that this was like, Mike McCarthy with the Dallas Cowboys, with Daniel Jones or something, or Dable and the Giants with Daniel Jones. And that's what I struggle with, because I'm like, no, this is the Green Bay Packers, man. What the heck's going on? This is the Green Bay Packers. I don't want to hear about age or youth or this or that. Like, no. So I'm just like, I'm failing to see like how we got to that game. And that's where I don't want to hear kind of like, well, they were missing this guy, they were missing that guy, because that doesn't change the fact that they just did not feel like that they were ready to make plays. They did not feel like they were ready to make plays. The play calling felt too, and that's why I don't want to say aggressive, because it felt desperate, even though the situation itself was not desperate. It became desperate when they were down by so much going into like the third and fourth quarter. But in the beginning of the game felt desperate, not aggressive. And there's a difference between being aggressive and desperate. And I'm just not sure why. And these low percentage throws will always just drive me crazy. Will always drive me crazy. And I do put that on Matt LaFleur. So, and again, I'm a huge Matt LaFleur fan. That's why it's almost like uncomfortable for me to be like calling out Matt LaFleur, because I'm like, who am I to call out Matt LaFleur? But then when he makes some of the mistakes that you see, you're kind of like, all right, well, he deserves some of this blame here. So, the one silver lining of this is, yeah, they lost to the Lions, they lost to the Eagles, they lost to the Vikings. I mean, it would be a pretty wild scenario. I don't even know if it's even technically possible for them to not face at least one of those teams in the playoffs, as long as they actually like make it through. I mean, I think they're pretty much guaranteed to at least face one of those teams in the first round, or at the very least second. And so one of the benefits of that is you're going to be able to use that as a rallying cry, actually, to be like, these teams think they got us beat. Right? The Vikings think that they own us. The Lions think that they own us. The Eagles, Brazil, I don't care about what happened in Brazil on a slippery field. Get out of here. They tried to derail our season. Jordan Love, I mean, like, you could use so much of a rallying cry. Not to mention, it's so hard to beat a team 3 times. All of that type of stuff, if you buy into that. I think there's some reality to that, but I think it's also a little bit misleading. Again, it's just a numbers game. So I think it's almost in a way beneficial in like a strange kind of way. But at the same time, now's the time to play high quality, clean ball. And when you see Jordan say just a lot of stuff to clean up, there's no time to clean it up. Like that we're at the point of the season where this stuff needs to be cleaned up. The final 2 games of the season, no more cleaning up, man. No more cleaning up. That's for weeks 1 through 15, 16. No more to clean up now. Now's the time to ball. Now's the time to be playing your highest level of football. And you had multiple games that you could have won but didn't. You could have won this game. You could have beat the Lions. Like, those games are there. And there's just at times, and I don't get it, that the Packers can feel disorganized. They do feel like a ragtag group of guys. And I'm like, no, what? This team can be so special. So it's like, that's not the game that I was expecting to see. Like, I was actually pretty stunned. And the fact that they still almost were able to maybe pull it off would have been wild, obviously. Would have been absolutely wild. But if they did, that absolutely would have been about the Vikings losing that game than the Packers winning it. It would have been all about the Vikings letting them back in. You wouldn't even said, you couldn't have even made the argument that was a well-deserved, hard-earned win. You would have tried to paint it that way, and understandably so, but it would not have erased all the mistakes that were made in those quarters. Because think about how he says just a lot of stuff to clean up. So even if they were able to get the ball back, come back, and win the game, all of those things still would have existed. So in a way, losing is actually better because it makes it hurt even more. Because if they came out with a win, they would have been hyped. Jordan Love would have marched them down, field goal to win the game. Everyone would have been just pumped, or maybe, go rip off a huge run, a 45-yard touchdown run to ice the game, right? And everyone's now feeling it. They're excited. They're pumped. They're feeling like, that's right, we got this. In a way, them losing this game, believe me, that locker room, looking in the mirror, going to bed at night, every single player feels uncomfortable and every single coach feels uncomfortable. And that's how they should feel. Because they should be like heightened. They're in those meetings, they're sitting down, they're looking at film, they're taking their notes, they're in practice. It should be heightened. It should be like they're like 10 cups of coffee deep. So hopefully it does actually work as that way. Hopefully it is kind of like a little bit of a catalyst to be like, yo, guys, we can be a great team, but we got to wake the heck up. We got to wake up. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Green Bay Packers loss to the Vikings? Do you think it's true that they're just not quite there yet, like Colin is saying? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.